Today on Week in Review, we're preparing for an upcoming provincial election. Dinosaur fossils are found in northern BC, and a terrace mother continues to battle for her son's name in the Edmonton Remand Centre. Hello and thank you for joining us here on Week in Review, where we cover all the news here in the Northwest. Well, since she is participating in the BC provincial election by running for the vacant MLA position in the Skeena area, Terrace City Councillor Sarah Zimmerman will be taking a mandatory leave of absence from her council position. Zimmerman served on the council since November of 2022, and at the end of the most recent Terrace City Council meeting, she ended up reflecting on the nearly 2-year span of her time spent in the position. She gave her thanks to her fellow councillors for the guidance that they had given her during her tenure and described her whole time there as a rewarding opportunity because of the excellent City of Terrace staff. Zimmerman will be running in the election against the Conservative Party's candidate Claire Rattay, who previously ran to represent the Skeena-Bulkley Valley riding in the 2 previous federal elections. And with that, Rattay addressed some of the main focuses of her campaign, and Jaylee Matthews from CFTK has the details.
Conservative candidate for Skeena, Claire Rattay, has been vocal in her support for detox and treatment facilities in Terrace, as well as the need for changes in our current healthcare system. Now she's sharing a little more on these intentions for Skeena.
Things have been changing a lot here over the last 13 years that I've been here, and we definitely are an economic driver, and it's important that we get investment back into our communities and that it's paid attention to, because we have provided so much economically to the rest of the province and the rest of the country, and we are often overlooked for a lot of services, and I'd like to see that change.
Rattay called out the current government on a lack of action in opening a local treatment centre.
The only thing that we've really seen is a lot of focus on harm reduction services, and the whole purpose behind harm reduction is it's supposed to be somewhat of a stopgap, right? It's keep people alive long enough that you can get them to treatment, that you can get them well, and when there is no treatment facility, when there is no secondary step, when there is no harm prevention aspect to it, then where do people go from there? They just stay high, and that's not acceptable.
Rattay also commented on her concerns on staffing the new Terrace Hospital. The Kitimat Hospital has closed for 14-hour periods more than 6 times in the past 3 months due to staffing shortages.
I think that it's a huge oversight. It's amazing that we're getting the new hospital. It's desperately needed, but we already don't have enough staff to staff the current hospitals. We're constantly seeing ER closures and diversions going on from all of the kind of perimeter hospitals like Kitimat, and it's frustrating. We're one of the only jurisdictions that still hasn't hired back healthcare professionals after the pandemic. That would be one of the very first steps that I think needs to be taken, is we have healthcare professionals that are available to work in these fields. We need to hire them back.
NDP candidate Sarah Zimmerman was not available at this time to comment on her party's platform, but there will be an opportunity to see both Skeena candidates in action coming up this September 25th in Kitimat at the Mount Elizabeth Theatre, and the next day at the Terrace Sportsplex on the 26th.
I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for people to be able to hear our ideas, have some healthy debate and discussion around, our different viewpoints and what our parties are looking at doing.
For CFTK News, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
In a recent news release, the Prince Rupert Port Authority made it official that they have appointed a new chair for their 7-person board of directors in Peter Lanton for, at minimum, a 2-year span. Now, Lanton has been a part of the PRPA's board since 2019, when he was initially placed by the BC provincial government, and he's also held various roles on it ever since, being the chair of the Sustainability and Audit Committees, as well as serving as a member of the Human Resources and Compensation Committee. Lanton also has about 2 decades worth of experience in both financial administration and governance, while also previously serving as the elected president of the Haida Nation between 2012 and 2018, as well as the chair for Gwaii Trust. Now it was time to say goodbye to current MLA Ellis Ross this past weekend after serving 2 terms as Skeena's MLA. Jaylee Matthews has more from the ceremony.
MLA Ellis Ross said a heartfelt goodbye to his constituents this past weekend at a banquet to celebrate his 2 terms in office.
but I've decided it's time to move on to the federal ridings and see if I can become an MP. It was actually the federal nomination that was actually got me into politics in the first place in 2017, but the provincial election came first. And I'm glad it did.
Make this presentation tonight.
Former MP for Skeena, Mike Scott, awarded Ross the King Charles III Coronation Medal, which recognizes those who have made a significant contribution to Canada and their home province.
The medal will be awarded to 30,000 deserving individuals across the country and is the first Canadian honor to mark a coronation. On behalf of His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, and all British Columbians whom you so graciously serve, please accept my sincere congratulations on having been chosen for this richly deserved honor. Wow. So Ellis?
Ross says that although he feels he wasn't able to get as much done as he'd have liked due to his party not having the majority, he says he's proud to have spoken up for Skeena.
And I was going to bring government back and say, you got to support all this. Didn't work out. Sorry to say. But I did my best to kind of get the government to understand that we exist up here. You can't ignore us. We do need that hospital in Terrace. We do need our highways paved. We do need a new bridge in Kitimat. We do need this. And so everything I've done is based on the idea that I really love Skeena. I really love BC. And I really feel fortunate and privileged to be living in Canada.
For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
In a release from earlier this week, BC Transit spoke a bit on how they launched a program known as UMO in May of this year, which is available in the Skeena Regional, Terrace Regional, and Kitimat transit systems. The program has features like a mobility app, improved fare products, as well as reloadable cards, but the main purpose of the release was to announce some notable changes. Starting on December 1st, there will be changes in the prices of fare products as the program gets ready to move into the next phase of what's called the Electronic Fare Collection System project. And some of the price changes will include adult fares being $2, 30-day passes for adults costing $44, and 30-day concession passes will end up being $33, with all other changes being listed on the BC Transit's website. Up next, the Coastal GasLink pipeline has been fined once again. On September 6th, the Prince Rupert RCMP executed a series of search warrants that were related to the area's drug trafficking. The warrants were then executed in residences located in the 1600 block of 2 Avenue West, 100 block of 9 Avenue East, and a vessel tied up at the Atlant Terminal. The search warrant did find a number of items, including 3.5 kilos of cocaine, over $23,000 in cash, prescription pills, and 4 guns ranging from handguns to rifles. 3 individuals were then arrested and released pending further investigation. Well, the controversial Coastal GasLink pipeline was once again fined for environmental non-compliance. Again, here's Jaylene Matthews.
The highly contested Coastal GasLink pipeline has been fined $590,000 for non-compliance with its environmental assessment certificate. This isn't the first time. In September 2023, TC Energy, the pipeline's constructor, was fined $346,000 for erosion and sediment control issues after providing false and misleading information in inspection records. Coastal GasLink responded to that 2023 fine, saying the false information was an unintentional and regrettable error. Prior to that, TC Energy was fined 3 other times as well over the course of construction for failing to adequately control erosion and sediment. As a result of the previous concerns, the Environmental Office says they prioritized the Coastal GasLink project for compliance monitoring, with nearly 100 inspections carried out along the pipeline, leading to 59 warnings and 30 orders, including 13 stop work orders. With the latest penalties, this makes approximately $1.3 million in fines to the company. As the latest fine, the Environmental Assessment Office issued 10 penalties totaling $590,000 to Coastal GasLink on September 11th. Coastal GasLink has said in response that as soon as the issues were identified in the latest inspection, action was taken to correct it, and that since fall 2023, they have been compliant with the EAO on erosion and sediment control. Although the pipeline is now complete, Coastal GasLink said in a statement they are currently focused on safely completing cleanup, reclamation, and permanent erosion and sediment control installation activities along the route, which is on track to be completed in the fall. For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Now, according to recent reports, the serious bacterial infection known as whooping cough is currently the only infection whose rate is increasing here in northern BC. Northern BC also had the disease's highest rate inside of the province last year, 6.5 cases per 100,000 people, and 2024 has been worse in terms of infections. But although the Northern Health region has it worse than any other area of BC, there isn't considered to be an outbreak in the province for the time being. Reports have also indicated that the groups of people that are most affected by this disease are kids between the age of 1 and 14, as well as pregnant women. Well, a team of paleontologists made a dinosaur discovery in northern BC, where the findings provide a historical record of BC from millions of years ago. CTV's Brendan Strain explains why one fossil has scientists especially excited.
200 kilometers south of the border between BC and the Yukon, 2,000 meters above sea level, stands the rugged Spetzizi Plateau, which is only accessible by helicopter. It's here that paleontologists from the Royal BC Museum have made a remarkable discovery.
We found a big flat area with bones just lying loose on the surface. And so this year we came back with over 90 fossils of different types of dinosaurs.
It's estimated those bones date back 66 to 68 million years ago.
So we could be looking at T-Rex and Triceratops bones from BC, or these could be relatives of those dinosaurs.
Why were those prehistoric creatures living so high up in the mountains?
In fact, the mountains were probably significantly taller back then because they hadn't gone through all of the Ice Age glaciers that kind of scrape and erode the mountains.
Dr. Victoria Arbour says dinosaurs lived in all types of environments, and there is a simple explanation as to why so many fossils were discovered on this peak.
So if you think about it, dinosaurs need to die somewhere where they can be buried, and the top of a mountain isn't a good place to get buried, really, because all of the rock and sand is washing away from there.
At the Royal BC Museum, paleontologists are now getting to work, examining a variety of fossils including teeth from a tyrannosaur, others from a horned dinosaur, which could be a triceratops, and larger bones from a plant eater.
The one we're most excited about is that we've got a whole bunch of little bones from the foot and leg of a small predator, so a small meat-eating dinosaur.
Arbour says those fossils aren't commonly found anywhere, which makes those bones such a valuable find.
Because this is a very unusual place to have found dinosaurs, there's a pretty good chance that at least some of these might be species new to science, or they might be species new to BC.
Researchers hope to get the answers to those questions over the next few years. Brendan Strain, CTV News, Victoria.
After the break, a men's shed has now officially opened in Terrace. A crew from the Fisheries Department spent about 4 days or so off of the North BC coast freeing a humpback whale that was completely entangled with bits of fishing gear, ropes, and buoys. Paul Cottrell, a marine mammal coordinator with the department, said that the whale was in very poor shape when they found it, with ropes inside and wrapped around its mouth, preventing it from eating it in any way. He also went on to say that there's been an increase in these types of entanglements off of the BC's coast, which he is suspecting is related to an influx of humpback whales coming to the area. Now, this past weekend, an earthquake hit yet again off the North BC coast at a magnitude of 4.3, only a day after several quakes struck the region during the weekend. Natural Resources Canada said in a statement that the latest quake struck in the waters south of Haida Gwaii and 200 kilometers west of Bella Bella. The agency next said that no damage or tsunami was to be expected. Now, back on Sunday, the region was struck by 4 quakes in the nearby areas, with the largest being at a magnitude of 6.5. Well, the Skeena Valley's men's shed isn't just an idea anymore, it is a reality, in fact. and Jaylene Matthews caught up with the members of the organization at a fundraiser this week.
The Skeena Valley Men's Shed has come to fruition this past year, and now they've added fruit picking and pie baking to their skill profile.
We baked 18 pies yesterday. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work.
At Tuesday's fundraising event, the Men's Shed teamed up with the Food Out Front program in Terrace.
To reduce any barriers to gardening and to produce more local food.
Yesterday's cause was the Good Days Fuel fundraiser at the Co-op Gas Bar. In addition to 10 cents per liter per fill going to the Skeena Heartbeat Society, their Food Out Front program was fundraising with burger sales. And the Men's Shed was there to help out and sell home-baked pies, freshly picked and locally sourced.
Locally sourced from Lauren, one of our members. And he peeled and got them all prepped. And yesterday at the Kassan place, we baked 18 pies.
President of the Men's Shed Society, Bradley Pretty, says the group is always looking for new volunteers and new projects.
No, we do much more than just bake pies. That was our first time doing pies. But it was fun. We just finished a project for the garage space, green space. We built 9 raised garden beds. And now with baking the pies at the Kassan place, now we're going to help out the Kassan place with their compost setup. They want a new setup, so we're going to help them with that.
Men's Shed currently meets every Tuesday at 10 a.m. at the garage in Terrace. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
The flags at Terrace City Hall were lowered to half-mast on Tuesday to commemorate the passing of Chief Don Roberts, an esteemed hereditary chief of the Kitsim-Kalim First Nation. Chief Roberts was described by his nation in a statement as an invaluable leader who made significant contributions to treaty negotiation, land claims, and economic development. Robert will also be remembered as a protector of Aboriginal rights and title, a bridge builder between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, and a visionary for the Kitsim-Kalim peoples. Arrangements for the memorial are still to come. Still to come, a Terrace mother fights for her son's name and the stigma around drug use. Now, the Terrace RCMP released an online report recently that has spoke of what incidents had been occurring for them as September got closer to its halfway point. One part of the report mentioned how an officer pulled over a pickup truck that was driving erratically for a sobriety test, only to discover several rifles, a shotgun, knives, boxes of ammunition, and drug paraphernalia throughout the vehicle. While the driver was not impaired, he was still detained, and the BC Prosecution Services was sent the evidence for the consideration of charges. And another incident in the report was when a Terrace bylaw officer was attacked by an uncooperative man while the officer was conducting their regular duties. The RCMP later found the attacker and arrested him for the assault before later releasing him with a future court date. Well, a Terrace mother continues fighting for her son's truth after he died in the Edmonton Remand Center back in 2021. And this isn't the only story that is to come from that center.
After the death of TJ McConnell at the start of 2021, mother and Terrace resident Lana Green attended her son's public fatality inquiry on August the 30th. While she was also present at National Overdose Awareness Day the following day at George Little Park, she was still processing the facts that were revealed during the lead-up towards the death of TJ, who was just 23 years old. TJ was placed at the Edmonton Remand Center after he awaited trial for charges of shoplifting and theft under $5,000, which he committed in September of 2020.
How he was treated was he was locked in a cell alone for 23 and a half hours a day, and the staff don't know the basics of signs and symptoms of mental illness, depression, someone who's suicidal, and it was 100% preventable.
Now, Lana is a part of Moms Stop the Harm, which is a network of families impacted by substance use or death. Petra Schultz is one of the co-founders of the network, and she had an opportunity to tour the facility to get a sense of the environment a couple of years before TJ's death.
It's bright, it's airy, it's clean, but yet it's such a huge, sprawling complex. I found it inhumane. I found it very sort of mechanical, and considering that people are in there for months.
People want people locked up and throw away the key, but the fact is the building is full of a lot of young adults who are dealing with mental illness and substance use. I'm in touch with people who are in there right now, and things are exactly the same, you know. They're not changing, and I just feel like the more I share what happened to my son, I know people can't even believe it when you hear all the facts. Like, how could this be that we're treating people this way in Canada?
Lana is now filing a lawsuit against Alberta Health Services after TJ filed multiple health request forms for treatment, especially with TJ being diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. And as of today, more information was also released about Jonathan Wayne Anderson, who was also situated at the Edmonton Remand Center, another man who also requested treatment but died from suicide shortly after. TJ was placed in the general population unit of the Remand Center for 4 months, cut off from any type of outside support.
They can't have in-person visits from anybody other than a lawyer. Like, you know, I'm thinking about Lana and her son TJ, that Lana would not have been able to go visit. Families can only have video visits. And especially if you have a young person, they have mental health problems. This is their first time in incarceration. It must have been really, really scary.
While many struggle with drug problems with different stories around the country, Lana cites shame is what truly killed her son, along with the lack of medical care given to him during his time at the Remand Center.
It causes people to hide. I think it's well over 80% of the deaths here in Terrace and in a lot of communities, people are using alone in houses. They're not unhoused. You know, this affects all walks of life.
Now, CFTK did reach out to the facility. However, no response has been given just yet. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
Well, 1 dead and 2 are injured after a head-on collision that happened over the weekend in Smithers. The BC Highway Patrol were called to Highway 16 west of Raymond Road, where a pickup heading east struck an SUV heading west. The pickup had one occupant who was taken to the hospital with life-serious injuries, and the SUV's driver was pronounced deceased on the scene despite life-saving efforts by the first responders. The SUV's passenger was also transported to the hospital with serious injuries. Officers continue to investigate what happened but suspect impairment to be a factor from the collision. The BCHP are asking anyone with dash cam footage or who witnessed the crash to contact the Smithers RCMP detachment at 250-847-3233. Well, that will be it for this week's edition of Week in Review, and make sure to check out our newscasts at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock here on CFTK on Monday. Thank you very much for tuning in.